Hello and welcome to this training video. I'm Peter Phillips, a member of the ICOMOS board. One of my tasks is to act as the liaison between the board and our very active Sustainable Development Goals Working Group. I expect that some of you may already be ICOMOS members, but for those who are not, I thought I should tell you a little bit about us. ICOMOS is the largest global non-government organisation of heritage professionals, looking after the tangible and intangible values of heritage places. We are probably best known for our work as an advisory body to the UNESCO World Heritage Committee, but our mandate extends to all the heritage of the world, not just World Heritage. I've given you a few facts and figures in the slide, and for this presentation, the most relevant ones are that we were one of the 4 founding pillars of the Blue Shield, and that we have a large and active Sustainable Development Goals Working Group of over 100 members, organised into 9 task teams. It is my pleasure now to introduce to you Naima Benkari, leader of one of these task teams, to give her presentation.
Thank you, Peter. Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending this session, which will introduce you to the UN Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals and their synergy with cultural heritage protection, particularly with regards to the Blue Shield's mandate on conflict and disaster protection. Through a case study, it will also examine the practical actions that the Blue Shield national committees are taking and can take to bring the SDG into their work. Let's first have an overview on the Agenda 2030 and the SDGs. By endorsing the Agenda 2030 in 2015, the International Committee has reaffirmed its commitment to sustainable development to achieve peace and prosperity by the year 2030. The agenda's vision is to reach a world with no poverty, hunger, disease, violence, a world with universal literacy, equitable and universal access to quality education, healthcare, social protection, social and mental well-being, human rights, justice, equality, non-discrimination, safe habitat with drinking water and sanitation, improved hygiene, and a sustainable universal access to affordable, reliable, clean energy. A world where every country enjoys sustained, inclusive economic growth and social development within a protected environment with no one left behind. This Agenda 2030 came in a time frame where the world was and still is facing important challenges to its sustainable development. Challenges such as rising inequalities, depletion of natural resources, rising population, and climate change, to which one may add the challenges the world faced during and after the coronavirus pandemic since 2020, and which caused a serious setback in the achievement of the SDGs all over the world. At the heart of the UN Agenda 2030 are 5 critical components, also known as the 5 Ps: people, prosperity, peace, partnership, and planet. The UN Agenda 2030 was guided by the purposes and principles of the UN Charter, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the International Human Rights Treaties, the Millennium Declaration, and the 2005 World Summit outcomes. Furthermore, it is aligned with the outcomes of all major UN conferences and summits for sustainable development. To ensure sustainable development, the UN Agenda 2030 declares that all challenges addressed in the multiple summits and conferences about the sustainable development are in fact interrelated, and therefore they need integrated solutions. For this purpose, 17 goals were devised to guide the world towards achieving the agenda's vision. These These goals are not categories or separate silos. Rather, they are connected and have aspects in common. They are articulated around the principles of ensuring sustainable and inclusive growth, social inclusion, environmental protection, partnership that strengthens all stakeholders to work together. Peace, justice, and strong institutions are also essential for the improvement in the core areas. It is important to consider every one of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals through the lenses of these 5 dimensions. So, how do these goals work and how are they evaluated? Each one of the 17 goals is specified through 8 to 12 targets, and each target is measured or qualified by an indicator, as you can see in the slide. There are outcome targets. Those are circumstances to the attainment, and they are indicated in numbers, such as target 1.1, for instance. And there are means for improvement or implementation of the targets, which are indicated in lowercase letters. For example, the SDG 12 and its target 12.b. Most of the means of implementation targets are under the SDG 17, which is about partnership for the goals. This goal is wholly about how the SDGs will be integrated. It will serve to strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. It implies the collaboration and involvement of all stakeholders, and it is evaluated through finance, technology, capacity building, trade, and systemic issues. All the SDGs are integrated and affect each other. They are distributed through the 3 dimensions of sustainable development, which are environment, social, and economy. The ones that are at the basis of sustainability of life on our planet are those related and affecting our environment. Then come those linked to our human well-being. And these 2 levels are the foundation for the ones related to the economy. In other words, and the pandemic has painfully showed it to us, one cannot aspire for a healthy and sustainable life if the 2 foundations are not well secured. Even if a country is on the top of the world economy, a virus can make its healthcare system collapse, allowing the loss of hundreds of thousands of lives within months, along with all the other socioeconomic consequences. Now, we could look at the SDGs based on the areas where they affect our lives on this planet and our healthy and balanced coexistence with its other inhabitants, such as plants, animals, insects, microorganisms, etc. We will see that we have SDGs that are focused on improving our means of living, like SDGs 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8, in a fair society through SDG 10, 6, 16, and 5, with a better environment through SDGs 6, 7, 9, 11, and 12, within a healthy planet through SDGs 13, 14, and 15. One may ask, in which way the SDGs are relevant to heritage practitioners, and which ones are the most relevant to this field? Definitely the SDG 11, inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable cities and human settlements, is the most directly related to the cultural heritage practitioners' activity, especially its target 11.4, which consists on strengthen the efforts to protect and safeguard the world cultural and natural heritage. Therefore, all activities under the World Heritage Convention contribute to meeting these targets. This slide is illustrated by the figures showing the real-time achievement of SDG 11 in the different countries of the world. You may know more about the achievement of other SDGs by following the link posted here. As experts and practitioners in the field of cultural heritage protection, we believe that culture is relevant to many other SDGs, and this deserves to be highlighted further. The 2030 Agenda fails to affirm and acknowledge fully the importance of heritage as an essential driver and enabler of sustainable development. While ICOMOS has various documents, such as declarations, concept notes, action plans, a more comprehensive text was needed to explain to the various actors and stakeholders the perspective of heritage in contributing to the Agenda 2030 and its SDGs. I am here representing the ICOMOS Sustainable Development Goals Working Group, which was established as an interdisciplinary task force in 2014, with the objective to coordinate ICOMOS' response to the Agenda 2030 through advocacy, policy, and localizing the SDGs within the different activities of ICOMOS members. The working group acts as a platform for recognition and mainstreaming the effective contribution of cultural heritage as a driver and enabler of sustainable development in the process of implementing the UN Agenda 2030. On the right-hand side of the slide, there are some of the activities that we have done during the last few years and which you can consult through our website. As part of our contribution to the UN Decade of Action, ICOMOS released a document in the early 2021 entitled Heritage and the Sustainable Development Goals, Policy Guidance for Heritage and Development Actors. This document is a first and key step in illustrating the positive contribution of heritage to all SDGs. It also addresses challenges and points where heritage practices might be at odds with some principles from SDGs. It provides simple information, baseline data, policy statements, and recommendations with illustrated examples on heritage related to the SDGs. The SDGs policy guidance promotes environmental sustainability, inclusive social and economic development, peace, and security. It acknowledges that sustainable development is systematically undermined by war, civil conflict, and all forms of violence. As declared by Peter in the introduction to this presentation, ICOMOS is one of the main partners of the Blue Shields organization, which is a network of national committees around the world dedicated to the protection of tangible, natural, and intangible heritage in conflicts and disasters. Blue Shield has a legally granted mandate under the Hague Convention's 1999 Second Protocol. The Blue Shield exists to champion the importance of cultural property and cultural property protection, raising awareness of its importance and that it should be given full consideration in line with its place in international law. As you may know already, the Blue Shield's mandate on conflict and disaster protection is articulated around 6 key goals. The purpose of this presentation is to show you how to establish the synergy between these goals and the SDG implementation. The goal 1 related to the protection of the tangible, natural, and intangible heritage from the effect of conflicts and natural disaster is relevant to the implementation of SDG 3, SDG 6, 11, and 16. Similarly, the goal 2, which is about the promotion of the ratification and implementation of the 1954 Hague Convention and its 2 protocols, this goal is relevant to SDGs 11 and 16. While goal 3, which aims at raising awareness about the importance of protecting heritage in emergency situations, it can be applicable to the implementation of SDGs 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. The 4th goal of the Blue Shield mandate is all about promoting and providing relevant training for those involved in the response to cultural heritage damage during conflict and disaster, or in the prevention of the illicit trafficking of looted objects. Potential trainees could be among heritage professionals, the armed forces, or other emergency responders. This key goal is relevant to the implementation of SDGs 4, 8, 16, and 17, while the goal 5 about promoting community involvement and engagement in the protection of cultural properties, it is relevant to the SDGs 5, 8, 10, 11, and 17. Finally, the last key goal 6 about encouraging cooperation between other entities involved in emergency situations, this goal can be relevant to the Sustainable Development Goals 5, 11, and 17. Now, let us explore a real case study to illustrate what has been said so far. We will consider the operation undertaken by the Blue Shield National Committee in Lebanon after Beirut port explosion in August 2020. More details about this operation and others can be found on the Blue Shield organization website through the link posted on the slide. The objectives of the Beirut operation were first to register the volunteers who joined the Blue Shield units and provide them with the adequate training to initiate them to the working methods of the Blue Shield Committee and help them perform the tasks required from them. Such an objective can be aligned with the SDG 4 and 5. The second objective of this operation consisted in securing a safe and cleared work environment for the volunteers and to restore the sense of the city and limit the negative visual impact of the explosion on the inhabitants. This is consistent with the SDGs 3 and 11 and restore the sense of security, which is relevant to the SDG 16. In addition, the Blue Shield Committee with their volunteers mobilized to help with the debris clearing in the museums, archives, and libraries, and assessing the state of buildings in order to secure them and the collection and their collections, as well as clearing the rubble on 2 roads and securing several houses, thus helping the restoration of the city's vital functions, especially the administrative and economic functions. And these actions can be aligned with SDG 11 and SDG 8, respectively. Within this operation, the Blue Shield National Committee developed a damage assessment platform where more than 600 houses, 8 museums, 15 libraries, and 10 art galleries were recorded. Such an action can also be aligned with SDGs 11 and 4, as well as SDG 8. As mentioned earlier, the whole operation was an emergency response done with the full collaboration with the UNIFIL troops and the Lebanese armed forces. This can be relevant to the SDG 17, which is all about creating and consolidating partnership for sustainable development. This was a brief and initial illustration of the practical actions that the Blue Shield national committees can take to bring the SDGs into their work within the Blue Shield's mandate on conflict and disaster, protection, and development of cultural, natural, tangible, and intangible heritage. Similar evaluation can be applied to other actions to reveal even more this synergy with the Sustainable Development Goals. Here are some of the references used for the preparation of this presentation and where you may seek further information about the SDGs, their level of achievement in different countries of the world, the ICOMOS policy guidance for sustainable development, as well as the Blue Shield organization and its different actions and initiatives. And to stay informed about this topic, please check the updates of the Sustainable Development Group, the Sustainable Development Goals Working Group at the ICOMOS website by following the link posted here. Or don't hesitate to contact the authors of this presentation through the emails provided. And thank you very much for your attention.